Welcome back to the Marching Arts Utah podcast. I am here today with Director of Bands at Maple Mountain High School, MiKae Osborn. MiKae, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
My name is MiKae Osborn. I'm from American Fork, Utah. I grew up most of my life since really the second grade there and went through the band program there, elementary band. And I went on to BYU, got my bachelor's in music education from BYU. And then later on, actually, I got my master's degree in curriculum and instruction from Western Governors University. I've been in this community actually my whole entire career. I started out actually at Mapleton Junior before we had a middle school, junior high, and high school system set up. I taught there for several years, and then we opened up a middle school, and I taught both at the junior high and middle school. And then last year was my first year teaching at the high school and the middle school. So it's kind of been fun to kind of work with the whole community from the ground up.
MiKae, I'm super excited to have you on. Would you tell us just a little bit about your role here at Maple Mountain, how long you've been here, and just kind of tell us what you do here at the high school?
Yeah, so this is my second year at the high school as the head director. However, I've spent my whole career here before that as an assistant director. So I was mostly over the brass, but I also assisted Mr. Josh Hurst with everything else that he needed as the assistant director. And that was since, oh gosh, was that 2017 or 2018, something like that?
It feels like so long ago, right?
It's crazy long ago, yeah. And started out with doing that when we had hardly any kids in marching band. We built it up to now, and this is my second year is doing being the main director over the marching band. Yeah. And then I have two other directors that I work with for the whole program from the middle school all the way up to the high school. And so it's a lot of fun to work with that. And I'm mainly in charge of all the non-percussion classes at the high school and then the brass classes at the middle school.
Very cool. So I'd like to take everyone on a journey to learn kind of what your story is from the beginning. What inspired you to pursue music?
Yeah, that's a great question, honestly. In my mind, it's not that long of a period of time. I'm still fairly young, but like how many things have happened. I remember growing up and being in the car with my dad and him playing like BYU men's chorus CDs and cassette tapes, and listening to music that way. Or I remember my mom growing up, she did marching band and band growing up, and she played some vinyl records of BYU marching band. I remember listening to some of those before at dinner time. And so I guess that's kind of where it began. My mom started us playing piano when we were 5. I absolutely hated it because I think mostly because my mom was teaching it, but she actually didn't know piano herself. But we didn't really have any money to hire any, piano teachers. And so my mom was the one who was, using what music knowledge she had from her own band experience and what little piano knowledge she had, which wasn't much. And she had us learning piano, and she was very on top of how she's super picky with how clean things were with just getting things right in time. She would have us counting out loud while we were playing, and I loathed every minute of that. It was so hard, but honestly that helped me develop into who I am. And then in elementary school I went to Shelley Elementary in American Fork, actually. And actually Christian Suko, band director at Pleasant Grove, he was with me. He was in our same grade. We were best friends. We met in second grade. And
oh, that's awesome.
In 5th grade, I joined the elementary band program, which was an amazing elementary band program run by Ann Boyer, who's incredible in my life, and joined the band because my older brother had done it before. I remember he did band. He started out on trumpet, and then it became my turn to start out in band. And I remember my mom asking me about what I wanted to play in band, and I wanted to be a percussionist, but my left hand I felt wasn't very coordinated, which now having taught percussion for a while, no one's hand really is, but I didn't realize that at the time. So I didn't want to try out in front of Mike Eustace at the time, the percussion director, to try and join percussion. So instead, I was like, you know what? I want to play trombone. My mom's like, we don't have really money for a trombone. Your brother's playing trumpet. So I started playing trumpet and started out in trumpet for 1 year. And then my brother, he was switched to euphonium. And so I switched to euphonium because of that. And euphonium became my main instrument and my love. And I played it through all of high school and picked up trombone in my 9th grade year. I was playing with the band director was Jeremy Arnold at the time, so absolutely incredible.
And this was American Fork Junior High?
Yep, that was American Fork Junior, and then at American Fork High School, I was with John Miller, and so the great one, and like all of them were incredible. And Mike Eustace was the percussion director, and
it was just an all-star staff.
Honestly, well, and growing up, like I look at like who were staff members for me growing up and stuff like that. And like Breck Mingleson, he did his student teaching when I was there, and he was my staff member over my section for a while. And that's how I got to know Breck Mingleson for the first time. And he's the band director at Farmington High School, of course. And, you know, I had a bunch of other friends that became band directors, such as like Taylor Ashcraft, and I said Christian Suko, and there's a bunch of other ones. So we kind of just all grew up together and ended up going to BYU. Christian and I were roommates all throughout college, and we were groomsmen at each other's weddings and stuff like that.
That's amazing.
And so, you know, we were best friends, stayed up far too late during our freshman year at college and playing video games and whatever. And then went to BYU, like I said, graduated from there, and then kind of landed here basically.
Did you do marching band at BYU as well?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so I'd love to have you talk about, what year were you in the marching band?
It had to have been 2010. I think
that
was my first year.
We're just a few years apart there.
Yep.
Okay. I was a cymbal player on the drum line. And I was initially like a little bit offended, like cymbals, because I was like center snare in high school. And then when we got to camp, I'm like, all of the cymbal players were center snare in high school. Like we're just that's how good you have to be to get in there.
For you, yeah.
So like, I felt way better after that point because I'm like, okay, I just thought they thought I sucked, so we'll throw them on cymbals. No, it's like, we only took 15 new people this year and there were 85 people that tried out. So it's like, okay, I feel better.
At least I'm in it. Yeah.
Yeah. And we got to do some cool visuals and stuff. I'm going to have you talk about some of your most influential teachers that you had.
Yeah.
You mentioned Ann Boyer. So I'd have you talk about, would you say that she was pretty influential?
She was definitely influential. She, you know, she got me started out in just playing brass in general and playing in the band. And she was the sweetest lady. She, you know, she was also fiery, and she had high standards, and she really helped us to develop. And, you know, back in those days, the elementary bands were at each elementary school. So she would rotate around to all the elementary schools, and she would come to Shelley Elementary, and she was fantastic. And then after that, you know, Jeremy Arnold, he was my band director, and just completely changed the way I look at music and made me fall in love with really like it's so much varied music. Like I fell in love with marches under him, and fell in love with ballads, and just like all this musical stuff that he was so good at. And then going to John Miller and seeing how he ran a program and his leadership, that was inspiring, just to see like how to build a program. And then in college, you know, I had Steve Call as my professor, my studio professor for the tuba euphonium studio. And, you know, he kicked my butt, and I deserved every minute of it, you know. And Kurt Seville, he was the main my main band director at BYU, and he also ran the music education program. And such a gentle guy with amazing standards and super high standards. And learning from him, seeing him conduct, his conducting is a work of art in my mind. I love watching how expressive he was, and it always inspired me to be more expressive with my playing. Had Ray Smith. Ray Smith probably changed my teaching in ways that I never thought. I do a lot of mastery teaching type of ways of teaching, and that came from Ray Smith.
Okay.
You know, I had Fred McInnes as the band director, and as assistant band directors, I had like Dr. Fulmer,
Mm-hmm.
Dave Fulmer for a year, and then I had Art Young for several years. And so, and Sam Sagawa and people like that. And then I did my student teaching with Nate Siemens before he was at BYU now. When he was back at American Fork, I did my student teaching with him. So it was inspiring to work with him and Dana Slaybaugh at the time. And
what was it like student teaching where you went to school?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I kind of had a different perspective on it because Nate was not my band director. That was John Miller.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of fun to see in the same program, the same community, a lot of the same families that were around when I was there, how things felt different yet the same, and see how the processes that John Miller started, how a lot of them were perpetuated, but a lot of them were, Nate kind of took it to the next level, and how he changed certain things. And that was kind of really cool for me to see, and see a whole new perspective on things. I thought Nate was absolutely incredible for having vision, like a vision of like what he wanted the program to be and how to get there. And that was really fun for me to see, taking things to the next level and being able to pick his brain and talk to him a lot. And he's still someone that I talk to a fair amount, and his daughter's now on staff for me, which is
Wow.
a blast to have. So yeah.
Yeah. Is that Anna that's on staff?
That's Anna. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Are you able to pinpoint a moment when you decided this is what I want to do? I want to be a band director.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was necessarily a moment or a dawning or kind of feeling forced into it or all of the above. But it was kind of like I got my associate's degree in high school before I graduated. And there's a lot of upsides to that, but there's also some downsides. And one of the downsides is that means when you go to college, you need to know what you're doing, what your major is. And for me, it was kind of hard my first year because I was just like, I don't know what. I don't really have experience with the fields of business or science or anything like that. Like, even though I was very science brained and math brained, but like, I was just like, I don't know what I want to do. And I always thought being a band director would be really cool. My family was super passionate. We would talk hours and hours on end about band. We still do. My siblings and I, we still talk about it quite a bit. And like, I just knew I was really, really passionate about it, and I got a scholarship to go to BYU for music. And so I started out that way, and talking to Steve Call. I remember talking to him when I was starting out in the studio, and I was like, well, what are your thoughts? Like, should you do music ed or should you do performance? Like, what would you recommend for me? And he was like, well, honestly, do music ed, because then you always have that to fall back on. But music performance, they don't really 100% care what degree you have, as long as you're good at that. So he was like, so it opens up more options. So I started going down the music education route, and I knew in my life I always wanted to do something that made a difference in a community and made a difference in other people's lives. And I was like, honestly, music made that big difference in my life. What better thing to do that that satisfied that? And it was like that type of job. So I kind of, in some ways, kind of fell into it and just fell in love with it after that.
That's kind of how things go when it's meant to be. You know? Things just start happening for you, and even if it wasn't expected, or even if you weren't trying for it.
Yeah.
Did you feel that there were moments like that where things were just kind of happening and you're like, oh, wow, you kind of see the path being laid before you?
It's kind of amazing when I look at my career in general, and before that, like my upbringing, and seeing how kind of like just it was like a recipe for me becoming a band director. Honestly, the people that I was able to learn from, like they're the who's who, like Ann Boyer and Jeremy Arnold and John Miller, and having these staff members like Breck Mangelson and Chris Butters and these other just incredible musicians and people like that, and going to BYU with the people I did. Honestly, things just kind of like worked out. And I remember going to BYU, and I felt like I was actually on my depth my first year. I didn't do music theory in high school or anything like that. And I remember starting my music theory classes, my music theory core, and I was getting my butt kicked by all these people. I thought I was doing really well with music. I felt like I was doing really well in terms of like my class at high school. And then I got to college, and everyone's really, really good. And almost everyone had way more experience with music theory than me. And I struggled, honestly. I was falling behind. And I had a teacher, Thomas Durham, at the time, that he noticed that, and he called me up to his office one day and worked with me until I started understanding it. And that's, it's like things like that. And it's like a bunch of little things, like the people that I was able to work with, like Nate Siemens, like I said, and Kurt Seville, and all these amazing people, and the people that I grew up with, like that have become band directors too. It was just kind of like a recipe for success, honestly.
Yeah.
Just like one little thing after another.
Yeah.
That, I look back and I think I'm super lucky. I had a silver spoon in my mouth, honestly. Like, it's absolutely incredible to me. So
That's awesome. And by the way, Dr. Durham was my favorite teacher.
I loved him.
I had him for 2 semesters, and he was just so funny. And the way he taught just kept my attention all the time.
Absolutely.
I was not good with theory either. When I got to school, I was lost. But Dr. Durham was incredible.
He saved my bacon, and Susan Kenny saved my bacon. She was my sight singing teacher, and
oh yeah.
Honestly, that was one of the few music theory type classes that I actually did really well in, and I owe that all to Susan Kenny. She was absolutely inspirational. She made me excited to do sight singing, and it's benefited me in my profession now. I use that type of skill all the time when I'm looking at scores. So
I think I had just completely wiped sight singing from my memory. I wasn't great with that either. Solfege was a completely new concept for me in college. I had didn't know what solfege was until BYU.
Dictation would kick my butt. I remember Christian Suka would always make me jealous, because he would always test out of like the dictation classes, and he would test out of the keyboard classes, because he's an incredible pianist. Yeah. And he would always just make me super jealous, and I had to like take those classes.
Because it's so much work. It's like, in addition to what you're already doing, it's so much work to figure all that out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So from your time at BYU, and going through the music ed program, take us through kind of how finishing out school and getting started with your career.
Yeah. So when I was at BYU, I was lucky enough that I was able to staff for a bunch of different people. So I remember I staffed for Breck Mingleson at Westlake. I think it was their first or second year as being a marching band, and I grew a lot from that. And then I was able to staff for Nate Siemens 2 years at American Fork, and that second year I did my student teaching with him, which was incredible. And Orrin Landis, the current band director, was on staff at that time too, and so it was fun to rub shoulders with him and get to know him and be roommates with him at Disneyland once, and stuff like that. And then I graduated in December, a little bit different of a time than everyone else. And I was looking for jobs. I had applied only to a couple places, but I was mostly doing, especially with it being December, it was kind of an odd, like halfway through the year.
And what year was this?
2017 or 2018, okay. Forget. And I went to, like I said, I was doing a lot of working with American Fork at the time. They had me doing, teaching summer band and helping out with like, I subbed for Lance Major at the time several times, just as a music substitute. And I was doing subbing at different places. I was lined up to actually do a long-term subbing gig for Connie Ugaki at Oak Canyon.
Okay.
She was taking a leave of absence, and so I had agreed to do that for her. And I was working at American Fork one day, just doing some, I think I was just subbing, and I get a call from Daniel Stolworthy, who's a band director here in Nebo School District, and he also went to BYU with me, and so he knew me, and he was like, "Hey, just let you know, there's a junior high job opening up. Mapleton Junior High is opening up. The current band director, Emily Smith, is leaving. She's going to work with a company called Musicians Toolkit, and there's this position opening." And it's kind of funny because like before I remember going to a college fair or a job fair and seeing Nebo School District there and kind of laughing, kind of scoffing. We're like, oh, no one wants to work there, to have an idea. And, but I'm really glad that I started, like that Daniel Stolworthy gave me that call. And I knew that Josh had just started there, Josh Hurst, and that was his first year too. He had just finished his first marching band season. They had just done their under construction show, and they took first at state. And I remember when I was helping Nate run the competition at American Fork, I remember watching Josh's band at Maple Mountain and being like, oh, he has got some good stuff going on. There's some incredible teaching. And so that's what made me be like, okay, maybe I can. And Josh reached out to me after that about the job as well. And so I applied for it, and I got the job somehow. I'm really amazed that I did. And I feel really lucky. I took over like the week before they went to the state band festival that year. And so it was like right into the fire, honestly. And
Yeah.
um, Josh, I remember he when I got that job, he took me out to eat with him and his wife at a place called Hoo Hot, and
I love Hoo.
I love Hoo Hot. I miss it so much. But he would, I remember he got really nervous when he was talking to me, and he was like, "Hey, I just wanted to ask you, would you be my assistant band director for the high school?" And I was like, I thought that was part of the gig. Like I'm already set up for it. I'm like, I'm really excited to be like the assistant, and so I started being the assistant marching band director for here and over the brass. And that was fun to work with Josh for all those years. And I was at Mapleton Junior at the time. There wasn't a middle school yet. There was just the junior high and high school. That's all we had. We had 7 through 9 at the junior high and 10 through 12 at the high school. And so I was at Mapleton Junior for several years. And Josh and I, we knew that we wanted to grow the program to the point where we could have a full-time percussionist, because we're not percussionists, and we were teaching all the percussion classes, but we knew to get to that next level. So we wanted to work together to grow the program to a certain point that we knew that there was going to be an opening for a middle school here. So it was going to be middle school. Maple Grove would have 6 and 7, then junior high would have 8 and 9, and then the high school would have 10 through 12. And so we tried to grow the program to the certain point where we knew that we could we would have the numbers to justify hiring a full-time percussion. So, and luckily we did in those few years before the middle school opened up. And we were able to hire Preston Gilbert as the first full-time percussion teacher. And from that point, we just kept on growing the program. And I was working at the middle school teaching the brass classes, and the junior high teaching those classes, and growing the program until last year when Josh Hurst left, and then I took over after that. So
yeah. And you were working as Josh's assistant through this whole time as he's kind of building the marching band program. Where was the marching band program at Maple Mountain at when Josh took over?
I think we had fewer than 60 kids in the marching band program. My first year with the marching band, which was my second year teaching, it was, I think we were right around 60 kids. It wasn't that big at all. We didn't have a full-time percussion teacher or anything like that. Josh and I were just trying to, by just sheer grit and will, just trying to build the program to where it is. And, grew little bits at a time, but it was fun to see that growth happen. And for me, teaching at the middle school and the junior high levels, I got to see growth happen there before it started trickling up to the high school. And so that was kind of fun for me to, Josh sometimes would get a little bit pessimistic and be like, "Oh, I don't know what our numbers are going to be." And I'm like, "Oh, the numbers are going to be a lot better than you think," and it was always fun because I had that view of the beginning stages before they got up to him. And that was kind of fun for me to see.
How did you go about building the program and recruiting?
We've tried a bunch of different methods over the years. The first year when Josh and I took over, I was actually part-time because we didn't have enough kids to justify me being full-time. And Josh and I, we went around that first year to all the elementary schools, had students perform for the kids. We talked about it. We tried to be like this bubbly, like really big personality that the kids would want to come. And, we told our own stories, and we had a petting zoo, an instrument petting zoo for the first few years. And we had parents that would call every single parent in the area and just tell them like their bandemony, like why band was important to them and their kid. And that was instrumental in getting the band kicked off, and then as we started finding more success and the program started growing, it kind of, started building upon itself. And that was an amazing thing to see, honestly.
Yeah. How important have the parents and the boosters been in the growth of this program?
Instrumental. Couldn't have happened absolutely without them and the word of mouth and stuff like that. Honestly, it's important not just like building, but honestly helping people understand us as directors more too. Because sometimes, you're working with like some new parents that are brand new, and certain things can seem harsh, such as like an attendance policy, and that their kids have to go to a concert and play in their own concert, by having parents that could like word of mouth and be like, oh no, this is why it is. And that was instrumental, like connecting to the kids' parents around, or smoothing over ruffled feathers. Sometimes if I made a mistake, or when Josh made a mistake, like having parents there for that. Parents were hungry to like go out and like get donations, and that's helped us to be able to get things that we normally wouldn't. Lobby like different members of the community for different things. Like this all couldn't have happened without the booster organization and the parents, honestly. And their desire helped keep their kids in when maybe their kids didn't want to be in it at first.
If you could do it all, if you were put in this situation again where you started with a very small program and you, let's say, had 3 or 4 years to build it into a large program, is there anything you would do differently than the way that you had done?
Oh yeah, a ton. Because it was my first job, like I learned so much during that time, so everything from having really, really clear policies, and I've made changes to my policies over the time, realizing certain things worked and certain things didn't work. Having really clearly defined policies, having a student leader organization. This year we started doing leadership trainings with all the student leaders here, and we kind of revamped how we did leadership, and it's already making such huge difference. Like the leaders here, the kids are absolutely incredible and blowing my mind. And so I would do that at the very beginning too. I would maybe have conversations with the parents starting out, like just like have some booster either parties or like get together, so the parents could get to know me on a personal basis, and I can answer their questions and help it feel like I am an approachable person that they can come to with questions or concerns, or that helps me to be able to grow things. I think having kids help spread the word of mouth, like their experiences with the band. Those are all like things that I would change in a heartbeat if I could go back. But at the same time, the being able to grow with the program myself has been great. Whereas if I took over a program that was already super established, I'd get eaten alive. They'd run me out of town with pitchforks and torches. If I took over, say, American Fork or something like that at the time, it would be so hard. So I'm really grateful that I was able to take over a smaller program, and with a really great friend, Josh Hurst, who also grew up with me actually in American Fork, and just having someone like that to share in a common vision and to build, like that was so crucial in my development. I'm sure Josh will say the same thing, honestly. So
I think that what you've just said is a great starting point for maybe a new band director that's in a similar position to what you were in. That's I think that your experiences are going to be valuable for other people in similar positions. So
I hope so.
Good.
At least.
Okay, I want to get to the point where you took over the job at Maple Mountain High School. And I will be interviewing Josh at some point, hopefully soon. So I'll have his perspective. So I don't need any speculation or anything. If you just want to give me your perspective, and maybe because it affected the students obviously anytime a director leaves. Can you just kind of talk about that period of time where he left the program and you stepped in to fill his shoes?
Honestly, it was kind of hard. I remember Josh reached out to me actually right before I was about to take a vacation, and or I can't remember if I reached out to him. I saw on Facebook or something that the Cedar Valley job was opening, and I was like, oh man, hey, check this out, and he's like, actually, I'm trying out for it. Okay. He's always felt like that draw to that area, and he was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to accept the job. But it's something I feel like I need to look into, And so at that point I knew I needed to start thinking about my future here, cause like it's been an amazing blessing to be able to work with Josh for so much and to share that vision.
Yeah.
And, my knee-jerk reaction was I wanted to stay at the junior high. I didn't want to move up to the high school. We had just barely performed at UMEA that year. As a junior high, like things were on the up and up. There's a lot of things I was looking forward to actually changing at the junior high the next year that I was really excited for. And I even though I grew up wanting to be a high school director, I learned that junior high was so important. It's like that's where everything begins, where that foundation gets laid. And I became very passionate about teaching junior high. So it kind of felt like I was kind of going against that, like that moral, I guess, that like I really loved being junior high. And so my knee-jerk reaction was like I didn't want to go out for it. And I told Josh that I was like, I'm not sure how I'm going to go out for it, and told my wife, and she's like, you sure? You should probably think about it a little bit more, and I gave it more thought, and I thought about the program and what it meant to me. And I realized that the program really, like, I felt like almost a calling to try out for being the head band director at the high school. And that was, at first it was a little bit hard, but it was also something that I was also excited for, because like I grew up wanting to teach high school. I really wanted to make some amazing music at the top high school level, playing like grade 4 and 5 charts and stuff like that. And so thinking through things more and about how much I felt like the program needed it in order to keep up with the current trajectory and maybe hopefully even improve upon it, I felt like it was so needed for me to do it. And so I decided to go out for it. I'm really glad I did. It's forced me to grow in ways I never thought I would. And I still miss teaching junior high in a lot of ways. I still think it's foundational, and we have to have incredible teachers at the junior high. That's where the real teaching happens. But I've been able to grow a lot of passion for like the whole administrative side of things, because that's a big part of the job, is like how to be a CEO of a small organization.
Pretty much.
And that's always been kind of fun for me to learn how to do stuff like that.
Awesome. Where so this was just a couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
24,
So last year was when I took over. I took over right before band camp, or a couple weeks before band camp. So it was actually right about this time last year. And so I taught all last year at the high school. And for marching band, I taught the entire show. Josh was with us up until just before our first parades. So.
Okay. So what had the band accomplished up to that point? As far as how you built the program, what were some of the biggest accomplishments that the band had up until the time that you took over?
Yeah. I think it all started out that first year that Josh was teaching, where they got first at state. He was able to win a lot of people. Like when he came in, he was like teaching them to stand in first position. The kids were like so against that, and the second year we took over, and we were taking first and second at every competition. And then at the end of the year, we lost to Provo with Eric Nix. He was the teacher there. And the third year we got bumped up. I think it was the third year to 5A, just because of the realignment of everything. And we weren't even 5A Scholastic at the time. We had grown so much that we were in 5A Open, and we were like, oh man, we're not going to be able to compete. I think if I remember right, we were on the small end of 5A Open. And
how many kids at that point?
Oh man, probably around 80, 90 maybe.
Okay.
But we competed really well. We took second that year, and I think that year we were against Farmington. Actually, Farmington was in 5A at the time, and Breck took first. With Farmington, they did great, and every year kind of was like a little bit more. We were getting either second or third at state every year, and then one of our big moments was Josh and I had talked before about like kind of our long-term plans. We were really wanting to make BOA finals down at St. George, and we thought it was a few years like in the future. We'd started out not going to it, and then we went to it one year, and we got, I think it was like 14th place, just outside of finals. The next year we were like, we're still several years away from making finals. The next year we actually made finals, and we were completely stunned. We had a Wizard of Oz show, and We had new designer that year, Jess Glasgow. She was our designer, and it took us by surprise that we made finals. That was well ahead of our time frame. I think Josh, on the itinerary for the day, he didn't actually have any contingencies for if we made finals. And so he was scrambling last minute trying to figure out like, how are we going to perform, like telling the bus drivers and the caterers like what to do with food and everything. It was just a big mess, And then the next year was a super huge year where we weren't really expecting much more than that. We were hoping to make finals again. And we ended up making, we took second in prelims, right behind American Fork. And we were like, it was to the point where we were up in the stands and we actually were kind of tuning out. They were going through like the awards, the placements for each class. And Josh and I, we were just like tuning it out because like we were just thinking about other things and we were just waiting for them to announce the finalists, and they announced second place or Maple Mountain. Both of us like looked at each other like, what did we just hear, And the funny thing is Josh, that year he got a little bit smarter. He made an itinerary for us making finals, but the bottom 6 at finals, or not finals at all. Okay. But we made the top 6 at finals. So all of a sudden, again, it was another like, oh man, we gotta change everything last minute, And then last year we were able to make finals again, and so we're hoping to keep that trajectory up every year and get better and better.
Yeah. The moment that Josh, so I think it was Grant that was saying Josh announced that he was leaving and then he was gone that day. Yeah. Is that kind of how it went?
Yeah. It was kind of hard because Josh and I had talked about how to make that transition happen.
Yeah.
And we knew it was really important for the kids to be able to start to build those relationships with a new director, whoever it was, because I hadn't got the job at the time. I was just going to take over as an interim director. And we talked about like how that was super, super important for the kids to be able to have that time they had such a close relationship with Josh, Josh is this really big personality that they all loved being around. Yeah. And so we knew that was going to be hard on them. And we knew that it could completely destroy a program if they didn't move on. If they were just like, well, Mr. Hurst did it this way, and this is different, this new guy. And we knew that no matter who took over, like whenever you take over a successful program, no matter who you are, you could be the best band director in the world. You could be the Matt Harloff of the world, or, Richard Saucedo. Yeah. You would take over a great band and people would have problems with it. Yeah. It'd be a little bit hard. And so that was one of those things that Josh and I actually talked about, how to make that kind of cut happen. And what we decided was it was probably better actually for him, once he's made that decision, to kind of like distance himself a little bit so that we can start the process of moving on and assuring people. So it was a little bit jarring for a lot of people. We still had him around for like, say, like a goodbye party, and people could still see him that way. And he, came out to the parades, but kind of in a spectator kind of perspective, not as a band director, just to help make that transition. But it was a little bit jarring, but we felt at the time that was probably what was needed to help the band program start to move on and to hopefully prepare themselves to get to know and build those relationships and that trust with a new band director.
This was before you had got the job though, right?
Yeah.
This was all before, and so you were just stepping in temporarily.
Yep.
How long was it from that point to when you did get the job?
It was a few weeks. I think it was possibly one of the days at band camp actually when I knew I got the job.
Okay.
It was actually kind of unexpected in a way. I had told the principal here that I was going out for the job, and I filled out an application. I had to dust off my resume because it had been a hot minute since I used that sucker, and it's pretty disgusting actually. But I dusted that thing off, made it look better, and submitted it, and they sent me back a request to do like a video interview type of thing. But it's actually the interview was like answering a bunch of questions, but no one was asking me. I just had to record myself answering these questions. Yeah. And so I had done that, and a message popped up like, you'll get in the next little bit, if you make it to the next round of interviews, you'll be notified. And I was talking with my wife at the time, and it was like band camp time, and I was like, oh crap, if they're probably going to ask me to come in an interview, but I'm wearing like athletic type clothes. Like,
Yeah.
what am I gonna like? I need to look like professional. What am I gonna do? And I think it was a Monday, or coming into a Monday. I was like, but they're not gonna. They haven't asked me to come in over the weekend, so it's probably not gonna be on a Monday that they're gonna call me in for an interview, And so I was like, so Monday I just wore like regular like athletic type clothes to sweat in, and I got a call from the principal, Shay Bradshaw, and he's like, hey, can you come drop by my office? I was like, oh, geez, crap. I wasn't expecting that. So I came in and expected like an interview, and it was just him, and he just sat me down. He's like, hey, we would like to give you the job. And I was not expecting that at that moment. Man. And so I was really happy to accept. And then the process started of trying to find someone to take over from my job, because that's critical at that foundational level. And so, it's been a ride ever since.
Wow. The show that you guys did was the Mary Poppins themed show, right? And remind me what it was called?
Oh, A Spoonful of Magic.
Spoonful of Magic. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about that show a little bit. Yeah. So it's your very first year as the band director. The kids at least know you, and that's a great. And I think that personally, I think it was a great thing that you were hired, because there was familiarity already there. They didn't have to get to know a brand new director, and I'm hoping that that's what has led to retaining so many of the kids. Talk about the show that you guys did last year, and how it brought the band together culturally, and with you being in the new role.
Yeah, so the concept for the show, I think it came actually from a student that approached Josh at the time. It was before he left, and they're like, hey, what about Mary Poppins show? And Josh was like, oh, this is interesting. So he presented it to like Jess, the program coordinator, and to me, and I heard it and I was like, I love it. Mary Poppins, you can do so much with. The music's phenomenal. The visual aspect of it's great. I fell in love with it when Josh told me. And so I felt really lucky when he left. I was like, okay, this is a show I already feel kind of a connection to. But I feel like I love the music. I love everything about it. And thinking about like the whole concept of Mary Poppins in my mind, about like a nanny coming in to kind of like save the day from a father that was kind of struggling, and a family that was struggling. I thought that was kind of a little bit appropriate honestly, for the year. How I kind of needed a Mary Poppins, it was it was an amazingly difficult year, and a rewarding year, and amazingly rewarding, but like really hard, and really hard on me personally, and on my family, with my wife. It's been really there's a reason why my wife has her on her band jacket, it says Band Widow on it, and it was that year. It was awesome to have something that I can think of like a Mary Poppins in my life, and having a show like that's fun and whimsical, and kind of like in the same vein of what we've done for the past few years, kind of like going with our identity lately. That was something that I felt really, really lucky that we had. And I really did feel like I had kind of my own Mary Poppins, and that was the show.
The show itself is Mary Poppins. Cool. Yeah. If you don't mind getting into some of what made that season so hard, and I don't need any super personal things, but what were some of the hardest struggles that you experienced last year?
Time management, like knowing how to budget my time, and knowing that it's hard on a family, trying to have boundaries, like where band is great, but ultimately that's not life. I do band to help people to be able to live a great life. And at the same time, I can't let it become my end all be all. So trying to figure out ways to have times for work where I had to work really stinking hard to get through everything, but then also times where I needed to disconnect. And it's something that I'm still working on. I still have to, like, sometimes I get a text from someone or a message or an email, and my knee-jerk reaction is to answer it really fast. Yeah. And sometimes I have to be like, I need to remember to spend time with my family, to spend time with this other stuff in my life that's also important, So that was difficult, honestly. And the other thing that was hard is like, for me, my role completely changed. When I was with Josh relied on me to do a lot of the teaching, specifically with the brass, but a lot of like music teaching and stuff like that, because he was busy with like a lot of it, the administrative stuff that comes with this job. And I took over, and teaching was like, working with the kids was my thing. And now all of a sudden I'm not working with them nearly as much. I felt like I was doing a lot more CEO type work. And so that was really tricky last year, and it was tricky to, and it's something I'm still working on, is learning how to rely on staff and to trust that other people can get some work done, and try not to micromanage things. It's something that, I'm still working on, but that was tricky to figure out, and still balance like trying to have just as high standards, but how do I do it when I'm not with the kids? And the other thing is the band director that took over last year, we have a different band director this year, but the band director that took over last year for me at the junior high, he wasn't really involved with the marching band at all. So I felt like I needed to do a lot more of that hands-on stuff, even though, so juggling all those responsibilities. Luckily this year I was able to go into the year and start working on getting staff early on. And I found some staff that are absolutely incredible. And I had a kind of a mind shift where I had to realize that my job's no longer as much about like the individual teaching, even though I still do a lot of that and I try and do as much of it as possible. But a lot of it's now being quality control, being a CEO, like making sure that I get rid of all the obstacles that I can out of the staff's way, so that they can do what they're best at, and then be the person that like comes in, like listens to it and is like, hey, make sure you check out this or something like that. Just make sure that the standards stay elevated, but also trust the staff to do it. And the staff, luckily, this year are absolutely incredible. And I'm really, really grateful to them. And really, it's making my life a lot easier, where I can juggle all these balls, or at least I'm getting better at juggling all the balls.
Yeah. So sometimes you have to go through the ringer to realize what needs to change and what, how you need to adjust.
Yeah. I grew a lot, and it was hard also on the kids. Like I said, I think the kids coming up from the junior high, no problem at all. Cause like they had just had me, they hadn't even had Josh. So it wasn't that big of a problem. Even the kids that were here for like 1 or 2 years, it was hard, but like it was doable. The seniors, I know it was really especially hard. And I think a lot of it's because for their senior year, they were banking on having Josh as their director. And so it was hard having me take over. And I'm sure that a lot of them felt like they were, they had the rug pulled from under them. And so, but for me, a big part of my year was trying to make it still feel like a worthwhile season to those seniors and those upperclassmen that it was hitting especially hard, and helping them to still feel that things are going to be okay and that the program is growing,
Yeah. And like you said, it's that way regardless of who the new director or the old director is. I remember when Nate Siemens took over when John Miller retired, and he made this pitch. He's like, give me 1 year, give me one season to change, to prove to you that I can make this work for you. And even someone with the caliber of Nate Siemens coming in, there's still a lot of that type of thing with students, with parents, and with John being there for 30 years, you don't really just replace him, So, but even from there to you and Josh, I think it's the exact same thing. And I think every program at some point goes through that. And
absolutely. And things can be okay, but it really is like, no matter who's taking over, it's going to be hard. And sometimes being honest with the kids and being vulnerable and let them know that that's okay. It's okay to have those emotions, but we're going to get through it. That can build a program in ways that are incredible. And this year, I think a lot of the reason why the leadership is so good is because of that. They've gone through something that's in their minds a little bit traumatic, and they grew from it, and I grew from it. And I had a different perspective on the whole American folk situation thing, because my sisters were in the program at the time. And so like I heard about like what kids were saying, and things like that. But like, I'll tell you what, when I worked with Nate, he was absolutely incredible. And there was no doubt in my mind that he was the guy for the job. He was so good at taking the marching band to the next level, or the band program in general to the next level. And he was perfect for that. And so it goes to show someone caliber of Nate still like will have struggles with it, and it's no fault of his own. And so like I hope band directors, honestly, anyone that's taking over for someone, I hope that they have a lot of patience with themselves and patience with the kids, and realize that there's going to be a lot of hurt with it, but there can be also a lot of rebirth and a lot of growth and special things. Like Josh, when he took over, like I said, they hated him for just switching how they stood, and everyone has it. But yeah.
How did you approach difficult cases with students or parents that were having a harder time with that?
You know, it's fun and hard. I feel like I made some mistakes along the way, because it's brand new for me to know how. With my job, I interact with kids in a different way than I did as a junior high director. I feel like I get to know them more as people. They have bigger, especially since they're older at the high school, they have bigger emotions, but also they oftentimes have bigger problems. I found out a lot about some really hard things that a lot of students were going through in their families that I didn't know about as a junior high or as the assistant director. And then all of a sudden I'm hearing about all this stuff. And, I tried to be very honest with parents, sometimes bluntly honest. And I think some of the ways that I addressed things maybe weren't the most tactful, and I felt like I could have been a lot more tactful in how I, addressed concerns or stuff like that. I've done a lot of learning of just listening. Most of the time people just need to be heard, they just need to feel like someone's listening and hearing them out. And sometimes I was too quick to try and fix the problem without hearing people out, but at the same time, like, I tried to interact with parents a lot more. And I think that helped out more than anything, like interacting with parents and the boosters, and, they were able to address a lot of the concerns that I couldn't, and just letting them know who I was a little bit more. I think I've heard from a lot of parents that they see a different side of me now, just because of the nature of my job. They get to know me as a person a little bit more, and just that honesty, that little vulnerability has helped me to be able to reach them, hopefully in better ways, And so going into this year, things are way better too.
Palmer Brandt joins us. He's a baritone saxophone player with Maple Mountain High School. And MiKae, would you introduce Palmer and kind of tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah, Palmer has been a student here for, ever since middle school, really, and been playing really all the woodwinds on the face of the planet. He's been doing incredible at all of them. And his primary is the bari sax, and he's been a tremendous student to have in the program for years and years. He's done some amazing things, including doing like all-state jazz and the all-state concert band. And then this year you did, the Bands MiKae, the national concert band. And I think there was only one bari sax player there, and that was you, which was awesome. And he's been a tremendous student to work with for years and years. It's been apparent since, honestly, I think it was the 8th grade when I started realizing how smart and hardworking Palmer was. He was really on top of things, just a sweet kid, but that would just dig in and do a lot of work. And then, I think it was around the 8th grade year, maybe 9th grade year, when he started getting into composition too, for music composition. And he's made a lot of different music compositions. Like, you've had several works premiered by different ensembles, and I think you've won a couple competitions with your music compositions as well. And he's absolutely amazing. We've actually been able to, for say pep band, to give him a few tunes to be like, hey Palmer, I need this arranged. Can you work on it? And he runs away with it.
Awesome.
And does a tremendous job. So he is just an absolute joy to work with and have in the band.
That's amazing. Palmer, can you tell me what it was like doing the BOA thing? And was that the one that was in Indianapolis?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me what your experience was and how you enjoyed it there.
It was really fun to be with a lot of other amazing players, and it was really interesting to see how different everyone is around the country and the unique things that come from each state and everything.
Were there
And
representatives like from every state, or was it kind of
no, but
okay,
most of them.
cool? Did you get to make new friends with people?
Yeah, I met a bassoonist named Ethan. He was really nice. I sat next to him in the band.
Nice.
There he's right next to bassoons.
Do you want to talk about just like how prestigious that is, how difficult it is to get to that level?
Yeah,
WA?
it's an absolute incredible honor, honestly, to be in the Bands MiKae National Honor Band. I don't know how many, honestly, national honor bands there are, and Bands of America and Music for All being the organizations that they are, being like some of the premier organizations for music education in the country. One would think that that was probably the top concert band in the country, or if not one of the top. And for Palmer to be the only bari sax player in that is absolute mind blowing to me. And it's kind of fun for me to also think that in concert band, he wasn't playing bari sax with us in last year. He was playing bassoon. So it's like this kid, he does it all. And he, like I said, his bari sax was his main thing. So for him to do that, for the National Honor Band, that's such an honor for him and his family, and honestly the school and the program. He really represented everyone super well.
That's amazing. We were talking a little bit before, and I asked you how many hours a day you usually practice. You told me 4 hours.
Yep.
Which is more than a lot of music majors practice. Can you tell me about what your plans are after high school and for your upcoming career?
Yeah, I'm hoping to apply to UNT for saxophone performance. I really like the option of UNT because it's a really good school for classical and jazz saxophone.
Tell me about some of your compositions that you've done.
Most of my stuff has been for sax quartet. I started out writing for sax quartet, and then I branched off to writing for band, and eventually the concerto I just had premiered this last February was for orchestra. So that's one of the only pieces I've written for orchestra, but I think that was actually the first one that I wrote for orchestra.
And who did you premiere it with? Which group did you premiere with?
It's UVYSO, so the Utah Valley Youth Symphony Orchestra.
Okay, awesome. Palmer, you've also got an Instagram account that you just started up for your music. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, and we'll link everybody to that as well?
Yeah, so I just post videos of practicing different things and playing transcriptions of things, and occasionally some duets I've written.
What inspires you when it comes to, because practicing, I mean, you must love it, obviously, but practicing that much every day and making it your life, is there something about it that inspires you to do that, something that drives you to do all of that work?
Yeah, something I always strive for in my music is to be free to play what I want to play and not have the instrument or anything else control me, especially with jazz and improv. I want to be able to play what's in my head when I'm thinking. I want to be free to play, to express myself.
Well, Palmer, thank you so much for joining us here and for your time, and we're excited to follow your career and see where you go. Okay, we're joined here by senior drum major Grant Weston. If you could give us a quick intro on Grant, tell us what he means to the program and just kind of what he's done in his high school career.
Yeah, Grant is one of our seniors this year, and this is his first year as drum major, which is really fun to have him. He adds, honestly, a lot to the program. One of the reasons why we picked him for a drum major is honestly his personality. He's this outgoing personality that gets along well with everyone. Everyone really respects him. He's someone fun that brings a lot of really positive energy, and he works really hard. And so it's been really good to have him as a drum major, switching from saxophone, which kind of hurts this year. We have a pretty sax intense show, but we could spare him. Luckily we have a pretty killer sax section, really, so they're going to survive without him just fine.
That's always kind of the dichotomy. You're like, oh, I'd love to be the drum major, but oh man, look at the stuff we're playing.
Yeah, the stuff I'm sacrificing.
Yeah. So it's kind of a sacrifice. And you know, leadership in general can be a sacrifice because you're kind of separated. Sometimes you're isolated from your friends and your section. And how has it been adjusting from being an alto sax player to being the drum major?
I think it's been a little weird, but it has been kind of fun. it's been different, you know, showing up early to rehearsal, leaving late. I think it's helping me, like marching band in general has helped me grow, but like this year I'm like, I already feel it like 3 times as much in the first like month. And I just have, it's been fun to have more of a drive, and I still have a connection with the people. So I've gone through it pretty well, actually. So
Beautiful, beautiful.
yeah.
What was the audition process like to become a drum major? And then when you found out that you were selected as drum major, what did it feel like?
So we practiced for a few months. I want to say around March. We started working with a really good student leader. His name is Ethan Priest. So we all practiced. There's about 10 of us. We do a rehearsal once or twice a week, going over conducting skills and even just how to be good leadership. We did leadership meetings with Osborn right here. We did that for a few months, and I've known for the past like year or two, I've been like looking at them and like, oh, I think that would be awesome to be. So then I woke up like the day after auditions, and the first text I see on my phone was from Caden Lyman, the other drum major, and he was like, "Dude, we made it!" And I jumped out of bed, and like my poor parents, they were dead asleep, but I woke them up and like got really excited. So that was awesome. I showed up to school early, talked to all the band kids. Everyone was congratulating me. It felt really good. I'm really excited, and it hasn't disappointed yet.
Good.
Or it won't, but
Not yet.
yeah, not yet. No, yeah, it hasn't disappointed though. It's been awesome.
Awesome. What made you decide to join band in the first place?
So my sister did it and my brother did it. So my brother was in Pitt for 1 year, the year before I joined. And then my sister did 3 or 4 years of it, and she loved it. And that's all she would talk about. So my parents did encourage me a little, push me into doing 1 year of it. And then it kind of stuck. I definitely had a hard time my first year. It was a little on the more complaining side, but then I grew into it, and I found myself looking forward to the next year. And then I was like, well, this is where I am now. I'm sticking with this, and it's been way worth it.
Nice. Are you planning to go further with it after high school?
I'm definitely looking into it. I'm looking to apply for BYU and looking at their marching band program.
Awesome.
I'd be very interested in that. Yeah.
Yeah. What has surprised you the most about being drum major?
I think like you're very used as a student, like seeing what the drum majors do. There's a lot of behind the scene things I've never noticed before. Like I don't realize what we do with distribution of like dots and music and all these way we connect with students one-on-one. Because I know I've had my experiences like connecting with them, but like I didn't realize how vital it is. So I think I was a little surprised about like the way we tackle things, because there's definitely a way you see it as a student on the fields watching them yell up there, and then there's a different way you go about it, and there's like strats to it, and I'm like I don't know what I was expecting, but it does definitely surprise me.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about your energy that you bring, and I know that a lot of that's your personality just innately, but do you ever feel yourself not feeling super energetic, but kind of needing to turn it on? Like, how do you handle that?
Yeah, I've practiced a lot on working on just how to be the like best version of myself, even if I'm not feeling it all the time. I think there's definitely value in faking it till you make it. But I do just try to tap into because a big part of me is just genuine. I love people like genuinely. I don't like half do things or like fakely invest myself. I find real parts that I love about people, and like, and I just expand that. I just like take it to 100. And there are days I have to push through for sure. There are days getting out of bed, even I have to just like throw myself out. I'm like, hey, let's do this. Here we go.
Preach.
But yeah, but there are some days I'm excited to go see my people. And the best part is though, even if I do have to turn it on, I think it naturally comes at one point. Like, I think I'll have to turn it on, just like show up. And then I notice halfway through the rehearsal, I'm like, oh, I'm genuinely laughing, genuinely having fun, running around. Even when I was like, I need sleep, like this, like 2 hours ago, I become the person I want to be just by kind of, making it once after I faked it, but it works and it's been fun.
That's awesome. We talked a minute ago about the adjustment from going, from a section to the drum major, and how sometimes leadership can be isolating. Have you felt more isolated as a drum major, or have you found ways to still connect with your section and then with other sections?
I definitely notice it for sure. Like, don't get me wrong, especially standing on the stand and like, it's kind of seeing the bigger picture is where I am now rather than being a little part of it, which is weird because like the weirdest part for me is listening to all the music, not just the alto part. But I have noticed, though, it has given me different opportunities to connect with people. I know the guard and the drum line a lot better than I ever have, especially with being a wind player. And even just other sections, including, since I'm a woodwind, connecting with the brass more, I've noticed I just created a lot more of these friendships, and I'm like best friends with people I don't think I would have been if I had been an alto still.
That's awesome. You've talked about some amazing parts.
Yeah.
Are there any struggles that you have as drum major that maybe you didn't anticipate when you auditioned?
Sometimes just like even conducting, like some simple things like that. I have a good memory, but like, you know, it's definitely a challenge remembering some things. One of my biggest struggles, but that I'm working on, is you have to learn how to mess up in front of hundreds of people.
Oh, yeah.
That is hard for me. Admitting I'm wrong or I did this wrong. We do push-ups when we're wrong. I like to do that when we're wrong. So I've learned how to, oh, I missed this part, or I called something out wrong. Like that is on me. I will take that.
Yeah.
It's a little hard, but I think it will help me out just in the future.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful. Can you talk about the culture of this program, and particularly from a student perspective?
The culture has, number one, it's seen a huge improvement of my 4 years of marching band. I think it's just gone up, and up. We're focusing a good chunk on being positive, being friends with each other, I think, rather than like we have to just buckle down. And we have a good, like, I'd like to say a work-life balance, but it's more of like a work-fun balance. I've noticed this year we've found a lot more fun in doing the work. I've noticed that's one of the best takeaways from marching band, in my opinion, is we found the best ways to have fun, run back to our sets, reset things, and just enjoy it while we're here, live in the moment a little more. And that's the best part of the culture, enjoying hard work rather than enjoying and doing hard work. And I think it's really important to learn how to do hard work nowadays anyways. So it's been great to enjoy it. And I'm excited for the future because of this.
Nice. Real quick, were you here when Josh Hurst was the director?
Yeah, he directed for my first 2 years.
Okay. This could be an hour-long conversation right here, but I want to ask you about the transition from Mr. Hurst to Mr. Osborn, and how maybe not how everyone handled it, but how did you handle it?
I think it actually went pretty well. Obviously, it was definitely a culture shock, especially since he was leaving day of when he announced it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, so like the day of, unfortunately, but
this would be an interesting conversation for me to have with him when we set up our interview.
I know you're ready for that.
Yeah.
But first of all, I would say you killed it. Like, not to suck up, but you actually just like you took it and you ran with it. But it was surprisingly well. I don't think it's easy for any band to do what we did, but we still made it to BOA, and I think we had the most energy we could. I think when he left, it sucked, and we could feel it definitely sometimes. But we got Osborn as our head director instead of assistant, and we took it and ran, and we still made BOA, and we pushed ourselves, and we learned how to adapt. And luckily, he's kept the program mostly the same, so it wasn't like a 180.
And you do have a culture shock anytime there's a replacement, no matter who it is.
100%. Even just new staff, that's not replacing anyone. It's different. I think though, I think it's only helped us climb. We were definitely, I wouldn't say stagnant. I don't think we went down at all though. It was stagnant for maybe a few days, but then we hit band camp and we gave it our all. We finished out that year kind of doing it for him, and now here we are.
Yeah. No, you kind of have to motivate yourself in some way. And that's one way to do it for sure.
I think there was faking it till we made it in there somewhere.
Yeah. But. This will be my last question. What are you most excited about for this upcoming season?
I'm really excited to conduct Under the Lights. I'm really excited. I'm excited to go there and conduct that final hit. I know I'm gonna be bawling. Our show theme is really fitting for my last year. That's a wrap. I'm just really excited though to keep these connections up though, and just like, I don't know, kind of, like the final sprint of a long run. I think this is like the drive home, and I'm really excited. I'm definitely a little somber, a little sappy, but I'm ready to give it like all I got, and I'm excited to just be the best version of myself I could have been.
Awesome. MiKae, let me have you talk a little bit about Grant and why he was selected to be a drum major, and just talk him up. Just tell me why he's the best since peanut butter.
It really
the same thing.
Most of it was like his personality, honestly, that really drove things home in his work ethic. He's the student that people are magnetized to, that really like to be around him. He's someone that a lot of students we knew that could look up to him, and especially with how young of a band that we had, that's so important to have those leaders that you put like up on a pedestal and that change your life. And we know that Grant could be that person. He's a very personable guy. He'll go out and talk to new people and doesn't have any problem with that. And that paired with his work ethic, and he really blew us away. And honestly, his conducting, how much he did with his conducting to prepare for it. We knew that Grant would be an amazing choice, and I'm really excited that we made that choice, honestly. So
appreciate
it's
it.
really fun.
When you're selecting drum majors, how much of it is based on their talent in the technical stuff versus how are they going to be as a student leader? How are they, personality wise, like you were saying?
That's a great question, honestly. It's kind of interesting because I know we talked about this in the interview process.
Yeah.
We talked about how everyone has their own superpowers, and a lot of it was trying to assemble a team that could use different people's superpowers to do, and we don't want like 3 drum majors that are the exact same, because then we're missing out on everyone else's superpowers. So that was part of it, is we were also looking at fit with other drum majors and see which 3 we thought could make a really good team that had different skills that can add to what we're doing and really help everyone out. And so Grant's superpower was definitely, we thought, like his personality and his ability to reach people and to inspire people, and that was really important. But that being said, we looked very, very highly at leadership capabilities in general, like what kind of person you are. And we have 2 different drum majors that they have different personalities, they have different strengths, and that's something that we've talked about, is like it's so important to rely on those strengths. So it's kind of a little bit of both. We do rely on talent in different ways, but also their student leadership ability. But I think for leadership for drum major in particular, it's really important that regardless of what skills each of the 3 have, they're all solid student leaders in the first place, and then they have those other talents that kind of contribute in their own way.
With Grant in particular, did you sort of keep an eye on him as he was growing through the program? Do you do that in general with students? And like, I think they have leadership potential. They have leadership potential.
For sure, actually. We keep track of certain students, and it's kind of amazing because sometimes some students come out of the woodwork that you don't expect. And some students, you look at the very beginning and you have really high hopes, and then, sometimes just life hits, and sometimes life can get hard on certain students, and all of a sudden they lose certain abilities. Most of the time people progress, but ever so often there's someone that you're looking forward to, and you're like, oh, maybe this wouldn't be the best fit anymore. But the funny thing with Grant, I don't think I've told you this, but he did come out of the woodwork for this year. I wasn't really expecting it.
I don't think I expressed interest. I watched, but I didn't say nothing.
No, I did. When he started trying out for being a drum major, I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize Grant was trying out. And like I said, like when we were going through the whole process, I was like, oh man, Grant's a home run. Like he'd be amazing for this. And so Grant is one of those students that I didn't see coming really, and he's been, and like looking back, and after like he said, he didn't tell us that he was going out for it, so it was completely surprising for me. And so it was kind of fun to like kind of do a reflection on what he's done for previous years and his current ability, and being like, oh yeah, he'd be great. So
that's amazing. Hey, well, Grant, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your insight. And we're really excited for this year and see how you do. So
me too.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. We're joined now by Caden Lyman, who is a drum major, junior, and a trumpet player. And thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Let me have you introduce Caden a little bit, give us a little background. And
let's see, it's your junior year now. Crazy. But Caden's been with us for several years, and I think you started with me down at the middle school at Maple Grove Middle in 6th grade, right?
7th grade.
7th grade.
Yes.
7th grade. So, and he's a trumpet player with us. He's been great, actually. He's been great to watch his progression. I think with the last drum major, we talked about, like, are there drum majors that kind of you don't see coming versus ones that you do? And Caden is actually the exact opposite, where he is a drum major that we saw some leadership potential in him for the previous few years, and we kind of had our eye out on him. And I think I talked to you last year about it. I was like, hey, you should think about it. Think about trying out for drum major. Nothing's ever for sure, and we always have to like make sure that the team works and stuff like that. But I was like, that's something that you should at least think about. And Caden was someone that we've seen for a while that's had a lot of leadership potential. He's very mature for his age, and he's very introspective, and he thinks through things really, really well. He's very aware of what's going on, and so he's been great to have as drum major.
Awesome.
And this is his first year as drum major too. So
Thank you.
had you thought about being a drum major before Mr. Osborn talked to you?
I mean, I feel like when you're in rehearsal and your whole, like the entire time you're looking at drum majors, I feel like everybody starts conducting a little bit and you always think about it. But I did think about it a lot at the end of my freshman year. And I was even set up to go into leadership to try out for drum major. I decided not to because I wanted another year playing the trumpet. And I was actually there the day they were announcing the results for it. And I was just watching in the background. And a couple of days after that, Mr. Osborn pulled me aside and he's like, hey, I noticed you were there. I was wondering why you didn't do it. And as I explained, I just want to play another year on my instrument. But yeah, it definitely has been in my mind for a while now. And at the end of the previous season, I started talking to I was very good friends with the last year's drum major. So I talked to him a lot more about it. But it's definitely been something I've wanted to do since my freshman year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now that you are a drum major and you've experienced at least the beginning of the season as a drum major, is there anything about the job that has surprised you, or are there things about it that you didn't expect?
I mean, I feel like the hardest part, and this comes with most things, is it's a new perspective for me, and looking at everybody else on the field playing their instruments. I miss that feeling, but I'm sure if I went back to it, I would miss things about being a drum major. But it's a whole new perspective, and it's really cool to see what it looks like just from my point of view, especially up on the stand. You get to see everything that's happening and you're in charge of that. So it's a very different dynamic, but so far it's been wonderful. And the other drum majors, I feel like we make a pretty good team, and it's just been wonderful so far. Yeah.
What is your favorite part so far about being a drum major?
Well, obviously we spent a lot of times just listening to the music, and we're all very excited about that. But even just today, when they're running through the beginning of the show and captions with music, just listening to that, even though it's like the very beginning, it makes me so excited for how it's going to be at the end of the season and how I get to experience that this year. So that's something I'm really looking forward to.
Awesome. What is a part of being drum major that is a struggle so far?
I feel like giving accurate feedback, because as my job as a drum major, my main job is conducting, obviously, but I play a big supportive role in the band. So I got to be good at giving feedback that's constructive, but also be good at supporting them. Because if I just give negative feedback all the time, that's not going to help anybody. And so just kind of just tweaking that mindset to point out, I can still give feedback, but point out things that they're doing well more often than not, just building them up rather than just pointing out all the things they're doing wrong. That's something that I've had to get very used to and change the way I think about it.
For sure. You said that you were good friends with a previous drum major.
Yeah.
When you step into this role, how often do you find yourself kind of doing what you've seen previous drum majors doing? Or do you kind of, have your own way of doing things?
Going into it, I felt like I would be a certain way and I'd have certain tendencies that I've seen other drum majors have. But as I've grown into the role, I figure out I have my own tendencies, some of which are similar to different drum majors in the past. So it's a bit of a mix of both. Especially knowing a lot of how they worked last year, I take some things from what they do, but I've also grown into my own routine for the whole thing. So it's a mixture of both learning from what they do and finding my own way to do it. So,
And I bet you by the end of this year, you will have had so many experiences being drum. You're really just at the beginning of your journey. So I'm excited to talk to you at the end of the year at some point and kind of hear your thoughts then, because I'm sure they'll be a little bit different from now. And yeah, that's exciting. What would you say is what are you looking forward to the most about this year?
the thing that I remember watching the drum majors on the stand last year is their faces and watching how they react to things, because sometimes we would play it bad enough that they would like even stop conducting and be like, oh, but
I can't really hide it.
yeah. There's some moments though where it's just that you can see it, and this can happen to anybody. Mr. Osborn calls it, you just hijack their emotion, and just that, depending on what you're playing, that feeling of pure joy that can just overcome their face. They can't control it. And I get to experience that, and I also get to direct that to the crowd. And so I'm just grateful and I'm looking forward to have that experience just kind of hit me in the face, because I get to listen to it all.
That's a perfect way to describe it. So, MiKae, let me have you now talk about Caden and why you picked him to be a drum major.
Yeah, like I said before, Caden's just like this really mature person that really observes things and is very introspective. So that he pays attention to himself. He pays attention to like his abilities. He works really, really hard at his instrument. And that work ethic was really important to us in the first place. But then the second thing that was really important to us to see was how much he looked out for others. And he's already done it a couple times this year, where he's come up to me and he's like, hey, just let you know, so-and-so's having some issues, or I've noticed this about so-and-so. And he's been able to bring like certain things that I can't really see all the time as a director to my attention, so I can be aware of like certain needs of certain students. And Caden's a great person for having those types of skills. And it's great to have him to be that type of mature person that is looking out for people. And he can be a pretty a straight shooter, where he's he's on top of things. He's on top of what we're doing, what his jobs are. He's on top of like what needs to be done. He comes up to me fairly often, and he's like, okay, what needs to be done? Is there anything else? We've cleaned up the rooms. You can go home now. Stuff like that. And he's been great to have as that type of person, that go-to person.
Sounds like you're the right man for the job. Hey, thank you so much for your time and for joining us on this. And we're very excited to see how the year progresses with you as a drum major, and look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me.
Joining us now is senior drum major Hunter Voorhees. Hunter, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, of course.
Tell me a little bit about, actually, we're going to go to MiKae. I'm going to have him kind of introduce you, and then I'm going to ask you some questions. So MiKae, go ahead and tell us about Hunter.
Yeah.
And just what he's all about.
Yeah, Hunter, this is his second year as drum major. He's our old grizzled veteran of being a drum major. Gramps, yeah, of this year. And it's awesome to have him back. He is a student that's really on top of getting work done, and but also at the same time balancing that with being a really good friend towards other people. And he's someone that can relate to people on a personal level quite a bit, and that's something that we see a lot with him and other people that talk to him, is they relate to him on a very, very personal level. And he just works hard. He's very smart. He's very on top of things. He knows how to get things done. We had him doing one of the hardest jobs last year of running the Met, which is always the scary thing and can easily derail a rehearsal. And he did a tremendous job at that last year. And so it's great having Hunter back.
Tell me what it was like as your first year as a drum major, switching from being with your section to suddenly being a drum major. How did that transition go for you?
Honestly, like, it is super cool, but it's really lonely, because all of a sudden you go from like a section of like 10 to 15 people all the way down to 3. And even then it's like you got 2 in the front and 1 in the back, and you're all separated.
Yeah.
So it was hard, but it was a lot of fun, especially like being able to relate with everyone in the band, instead of almost like it's harder when you're just in one section to relate to everybody. But I don't know, drum majors, like, you kind of just vibe with everyone all the time.
Yeah.
And so you could go up to whatever instruments or captions, whatever you want, and guard, and you just be best friends with them, and it's so fun. And after you get past the loneliness part at band camp-ish, it's like, it's a really fun job. So
yeah. And I feel like maybe band camp is such a different world from what you're going to experience during the regular season. You know, you're never going to be in a point where you are 24/7 with your, you know, maybe it's not 24/7, but when you're with the band all the time and you're with your sections all the time. So I can see how that could be isolating and lonely. What has been your favorite part so far of being a drum major?
I don't know. Last year we had a really, like, two of my best friends, they became my best friends. And this year we've got possibly even more of my best friends. So, cause I've known Grant for a long time, and Caden's obviously a really cool guy, and I love Caden so much. But I think my favorite part would probably be just being able to hear everything. Because, like, when you're on the field, you're part of the sound, but when you're, like, in front or behind the field, you are listening to what they're putting out. So last year at like in St. George at State, you could just hear everything, and you just smile on your face, and you're just crying, and it's so good because you work so hard, and that's probably my favorite part, is being able to listen to it.
Nice. What has been a struggle that you've experienced as a drum major?
Again, the loneliness, maybe taking on extra, like, responsibilities, because, you know, we kind of do everything, and kind of just like carry around packages and moving things, and, you know, just making sure everything runs smoothly. That is pretty difficult. And I'd say, like, that's probably one of the more stressful parts, is like making sure everything is going all right.
On that note, how much of being a drum major is the glorified part where you're up in front of everybody conducting versus the more tedious stuff like carrying the metronome, or, you know, what's the split there?
Well, I would say not even like 5%, maybe even like 3%. We're on the podium so little, and really the way I think about drum majors, like, you're not on top of the band, you're below, pushing and elevating them with you as you grow. So, but really, like, it's not really the glorious thing that a lot of people think it is, because it's like you do have to take on a lot of extra responsibility, and you know it's hard sometimes, but at the end of the day, I guess that 3% is really, really stinking fun. So
makes it all worth it, hopefully. Yeah. What are your plans after high school?
I want to go to Mission, and then hopefully college at BYU or UVU Business School. So
okay, awesome. MiKae, tell me about Hunter and why you guys picked him to be drum major 2 years in a row.
Yeah, a few things. For Hunter, for this year specifically, he did such a great job as being a drum major last year. Like I said, he ran the Met for us. He did a lot of those harder jobs, and he was just this one leader that was always willing to help out, always willing to be on top of things. He was smart. He was able to think through things very, very well and be super organized. And we knew that, like, his leadership ability, not only with, like, say, the band in general, but his leadership ability with these other two drum majors who are brand new to being drum major would be crucial. And he's been great at that. He's been great at showing them the ropes and showing them what it actually is like to be a drum major, how it's a little bit different than what they were expecting. And we knew Grant would be a great asset for that.
If there's going to be people watching this that maybe would like to be a drum major someday, what would you tell them to expect from the experience?
You're going to work a lot harder. Like I said, it's just like so much hard work. But if you are thinking about it, I'd say go for it, because, you know, if you're meant to do it, you're meant to do it. You know, there's certain, like, personalities and people that are, like, totally meant to do drum major, and it's like you can be so outgoing and, like, very loud, honestly. But if you feel that you are that outgoing, if you make connections, you make friends, and you're loud and you're fun, there's no harm in trying, really. I mean, it's awesome. So that's kind of if you want to do it, go for it.
Hunter, thank you so much for joining us. We're looking forward to this season and following you as you go. So
yeah, thanks for having me.
So we're here on the cusp of the 2026 season. You guys have already started pre-camp stuff, whatever you call it here. What do you call it here at the mountain?
Just rehearsals like
summer rehearsals,
like normal things. Yeah.
What are you working on right now with the band?
So we just got through preparing for parade season. Granted, we haven't had our parades. We'll actually have our first one next week and the last one on the 24th. But we're already kind of pivoting into the show. So we actually have our first 2 movements of drill. We have all of our music. And so we're starting to learn the music for the show. We're right now on set, I want to say 8 of the show, like of learning it for visually, like the drill. And so we're kind of like starting to pivot a little bit. Next week, the kids are going to hate me a little bit because I'm going to have to jerk them back to the land of parades just a little bit. We'll have to do a couple of practice parades or hopefully one practice parade, but we're definitely in the process of switching into that show mindset. And that's honestly, in my opinion, the most fun part of the year. I love show season. I love and it's fun to see the kids, especially the new ones that, in their minds, Marching Band is parade. Now all of a sudden we're doing band on grass, it's completely different, so.
Yeah. Tell us what your show is called and kind of the concept of it.
Yeah. The show is called That's a Wrap. And the show concept came from Jess Glasgow again. And she presented a few different ideas to me going into the year. And this is the year that this is the show concept that I kind of felt like I gravitated towards it for whatever reason. And the show concept is all about gift giving and gift wrapping, and specifically like that, the chaos and the fun that comes from wrapping gifts, and not necessarily like Christmas gifts, but like any gifts, like birthday gifts and whatever. And so it's all about that. So you're going to see on the field, giant scissors and a giant scissor stage, and you're going to see the band or the guard running around with scissors about that. So you're going to see ribbon, you're going to see giant wrapping paper all across the field. You're going to see giant, huge, larger than life bows, stuff like that. And so it's all about that, so we're going to have like, simple gifts, of course. We have to have a little bit of simple gifts in there. Not a ton, but we do have a little bit of simple gifts. We have some Edward Scissorhands, kind of playing off the scissor idea. We have some other music from some other things. We have some Uptown Funk in there, giving it kind of a funky, fun feel type of an idea. So it's going to be just a really a party, but a really, how do I say it? It's going to be a really heartfelt party. That second movement, that ballad is going to just, it's Danny Elfman music in that second movement, and it's gorgeous. It's absolutely I think that's probably the kid's favorite part. And then, we end with just a riot of giving gifts, and it's just gonna be a really fun year. Yeah.
That's awesome. Maple Mountain is in a different position from, let's say, Westlake or American Fork or Green Canyon. They're going to Grand Nationals, for example. Maple Mountain, you're not planning that this year yet.
Not this year.
What are your, you were saying that the success of your program sort of surprised you to the point that you weren't even ready logistically for it. How quickly do you see this program becoming ready to go to that next level and participate at BOA Grand Nationals?
Well, definitely in the next 4 or 5 years, I would love to go out to Grand Nationals. I would love to have a band that I feel like we have a really, really solid chance at making semifinals. We still, I think we're really close, I think, but we have some ways to develop in order to get to that point. We can only go out of state just because of the nature of travel regulations in NEBO every other year.
Okay.
And so this year we're actually going to California. We're going to have some fun at Disneyland and do some really amazing things. Like,
talk about the recording session that you're going to have.
Yeah, we're going to be able to play some music from Disney and have the kids work with some really amazing conductors. Last time when we did this, we were able to have them work with one of the star pupils of John Williams, actually. And they got to ask him questions about John and stuff like that. But, we're going to be able to play some music and have it overlaid over like the actual Disney movies, which is such a cool experience. And it's like a full studio experience with like the microphones and the click track and stuff like that. And so we're really excited for that for this year. And then next year, we're probably just going to do St. George just because we can't go out of state. And then the year after that, we'll see. If it depends on how this year and next year goes. I would love to go to Grand Nationals. I know a lot of parents really want to. A lot of the students really want to. They're really hungry to see the national scene.
Oh yeah.
I would love to also go into the future to say the Rose Parade or the Macy's Parade, you know, and there's those big types of things where we can start doing like a regional in California or heaven forbid in Texas or something like that, you know. And so there's a lot of fun things that I'm hoping for in the future. And again, it kind of just depends on how the growth of the program goes and where we feel like we are. But I think we're on a really good track to maybe go to Grand Nationals in the next like 4 or 5 years.
That's awesome.
I would absolutely love it. And hopefully by that point, you know, maybe we'll be over 200 kids big, and that'll be incredible.
That was my next question. How many students are in the band right now?
We're at 142 right now. So we've actually experienced growth every single year, including this year. This year we didn't have as much of a growth as we would have liked, but a lot of that comes from losing 30 kids, and then also the change, that all the stuff that happened at the junior high and with the band director changes. We kind of took a little bit. We still grew somehow. We still grew a little bit. But I'm anticipating growth every year. And in a few years, you know, this year we're starting 140 beginners at the middle school.
Wow.
140 sixth graders, which is mind-blowing to me. I have no idea how we're going to survive that. But, you know, that trickles up, and hopefully in the next few years we'll be over 200. So
awesome. What do you feel you need to see between now and the beginning of competition season in order for the band to be on track to be where you want them to be?
You know, I think we're already, we're actually kind of ahead of schedule in my mind. We did change up the schedule a little bit. We started a little bit earlier on things. We got the production done earlier. I think the big things are we need to make sure that like all the props and stuff like that are all built on time. Musically, like we need to make sure that the kids are like memorizing the music before band camp. I would my goal is actually to have all first movement on the field before we actually hit band camp, and by the end of band camp to have the whole show on the field, and then start producing it, putting in some choreo, you know, stuff like that. But I think that's the big thing, is just making sure that the kids, number one, can play all the notes, all the rhythms, sound pretty good at it. They're sounding more or less in tune, you know, start working on that, start working on balance, and that they can have it memorized. And I think if we can do that before we hit band camp, at least with the first movement, I think we're in really good shape musically. And then visually, I think we're actually pretty far ahead of pace at this point than we've ever been in previous years. So it's fun to see how the kids keep surprising me at how fast they learn, and the staff, honestly, how amazing the staff has been taking over, teaching a lot that I can't do as much anymore, and seeing them just completely tear it up and kill it with the kids, and, you know, see the kids like learning all the different things that we have to do. And so it's a lot of fun.
Nice.
And so hopefully we're looking good. And I know Anna Siemens, she's with Blue Devils right now, and she's our visual caption head. And so she'll be back here in the next few weeks. And hopefully by the time she's back, you know, we have quite a bit of stuff on the field for her to start playing with and putting some good choreo in.
That's going to get exciting.
Yeah.
That's great. What is your definition of a successful season for 2026?
You know, for me, it kind of goes back to like what I think is success for marching band in general. It's kind of tricky. I was having a discussion with one of my other directors about this today, and it's hard to balance the competitive side with the other important side of marching band. And for me, I'm a really naturally competitive guy. But that being said, like I became a band director to help change lives, to help change kids' lives. Our motto this year is to positively change the lives of others, you know, and that's something that we, as a staff and the student leaders, are really trying to work on, is trying to make it so it's an enjoyable experience, something that kids want to be a part of, that changes their lives. And maybe with our show, who knows, maybe we can inspire some other people to change their own lives, you know, just from our performance. And so if we can have a show that that reaches the crowd, that the crowd really, really loves, and that the kids love, and the kids have a fantastic year, and they feel like they got better, and that the program got better, and like as a whole, like we're a better organization. That to me is success, and we do have competitive goals, like I would love to make finals again this year. That's kind of my big goal. But in the end, if I reach everything else, that goal doesn't really matter a whole lot. The competitive goal is great for pushing ourselves, but if we're attaining it still, I'm a happy man. But that being said, like I hope we can make finals, and hopefully we can even place better than we did last year. And granted, that's, we don't have 100% control over that. That's, there's a lot of judging. There's a lot of who's coming. What are the bands that are going to be there? How are the other bands doing? And none of us bands have 100% control over things. So it's kind of hard to have goals like that. Yet I still do, but the other goals are more important to me by far.
Like with things like making finals, that is something that that's quantifiable. How do you quantify these other more important goals of reaching people, changing lives? It's not really a statistic that you can read, but how do you see if that's working? How do you see if that's a goal that's being reached?
It's interesting because I'm a math brain type person, and I think my family naturally is. My older brother is a statistician. He so we're all about that type of stuff, and it's hard when it's not a concrete number. For me, a lot of it's going to be having to be very honest and vulnerable, and asking people how they felt the season went. Hearing what students say in an honest manner, and hearing what parents say, and we'll see if we grow next year. If we grow, that's a good sign that we've done some good things, that kids are enjoying it, and it's changing their lives, and the parents are realizing it's changing their kids' lives. So I think that growth is one of the things that, like, one of those solid numbers that we can rely on for the most part. Granted, there's some things that we can never control at the junior high. Last year, because of the just director changes and stuff like that, we lost several kids at the junior high. And so, like, there's balancing that, but we'll see how the growth does. I gotta be honest and talk to the parents. I gotta see how the crowd reacts. If the crowd's like on their feet, and that's a good sign that they're loving things. And it's kind of tricky, but the quantifiable things can be important. But it kind of takes me back to 1 year at American Fork. I remember we gave we gave a performance, and if I'm being honest, we did not do well at that performance. When I was a student there, we just weren't giving it our all. We kind of just phoned it in, and we ended up winning. We took first place, but we just kind of phoned it in. Our hearts weren't into it. And I remember, it changed my life. Mike Hustis at the time, fiery percussion director, and he's down in Texas now. He took that trophy the next day at rehearsal, and he had us on the track, and he put that trophy in front of us, and he's like, "Does that make you feel good about your performance? Like, that's a piece of plastic. Like, you happy you won a piece of plastic?" And it sounds harsh, but it's still always kind of stuck with me that, like, what really mattered was how we felt like after our performance. Like, did we give it our all? And we didn't, and that by far is the more important thing to me. One of my favorite years as a student at American Fork was when we took second my 9th grade year, and we were expected to get fourth or something like that, and took second. So we overachieved, but that's still not first, but that was one of my favorite years. We won BOA several times after that, but that year in my mind still kind of sticks out because, like, we did something that we weren't supposed to do. We went out there, and we knew we gave it our all. We knew we had our heart into it, and because that we could hold our heads with pride and be super pleased and happy and excited with what we did. And that's still in my mind one of those gold moments that I hang my hat on, to this day. And so, and I'm hoping that we can do that with kids this year and have like that one moment that they do something that's harder than they ever thought they could. They push past that wall that tells them they can't go past, and it's my hope that they get past it and they realize for the rest of their lives they can do ridiculously hard things and go a lot further than they ever do. And if they did that, that's why I became a band director, and I'm a happy guy, honestly.
Yeah. There's going to be aspiring band directors watching this podcast. What could you tell them about being a band director, and specifically maybe something that they might not expect as a band director?
I would say be honest. Be honest with yourself. Get out there, and as much as you can, when you're even thinking about teaching, like if you're just in high school and thinking about going into music education, so as soon as you graduate, see if you can start staffing for someone. Get out there and start working. See if you enjoy working with students. See if you enjoy teaching. There's a lot of people that go into this profession that find out later on, they go through all of college and they realize, oh, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're kind of cooked in their career a little bit. And so there's a lot of people that do that. So be honest with yourself, get out there, work with band directors, cold call band directors. Band directors are totally happy to like answer emails from a random person that's like, hey, can I staff for you? Cold call people, like get out there. When you take over a program, don't be afraid to take over the smaller programs. Oftentimes, if you're like me, you had these visions of taking over like this giant program, like say American Folk or something like that. And, but as I said earlier, like it's one of my biggest, I count it as a super huge blessing that I was able to take over a program that could grow with me.
Yeah.
And I could grow and I can make mistakes because we all make them, and we're going to make plenty of them. And any aspiring band director will make mistakes, but if you're honest and humble about it, and that's something that I'm always working on for myself, and I'm not the best at it, but and you face cold hard truths and you grow from them, you can create something that's absolutely incredible that can really reach so many people's lives and change their lives for the better, and change your own in the process, honestly.
Yeah. 20 years after your retirement, what would you hope is your legacy? What do you hope people would say about the MiKae Osborn era at either at Maple Mountain or wherever you go in your career? What would you like to hear people say about your time as a band director?
This might sound a little bit surprising, and it's kind of hard for me to say it, honestly. But honestly, I kind of hope that they don't actually too much talk about it. Like, I hope the people that were here fondly remember it, and they realize how much of a difference it made in their life. I hope whatever program it is that I took over can move on to the next band director. And I hope the processes that I put in place, the procedures, the machine, kind of like John Miller built in American Folk, the machine. I hope the machine's still running and the new band director takes it and, tweaks it and makes it their own and makes it better. But I hope that in that case, the things that I did, keep paying it forward, where the band is really improving and getting better. But I hope that because of that, I don't have to be someone that they have to remember in order for them to keep up the program. It's part of their culture. And because it's part of their culture, they can really love whoever their future band director is and help them change their own lives. And again, I hope that the people that I do teach now, I hope they do look back with fondness, and I hope they realize that I'm giving it my all, and I make mistakes, but I love doing it, and I love serving, and I love seeing the changes in people's lives. And I really hope that, in 20 years after I retire, I still run into people, and I still hope that those people, those former students, those former parents that I run into, I hope that we're still really amazing friends. And I hope their lives are successful, that they were able to use those skills that they learned in marching band and band in general, and they're applying it into their lives, and they're changing their communities, and they're changing their own families, and that's honestly that'd be that'd be amazing.
All right. Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I speak for everyone when I say we're excited to see what Maple Mountain does this year and what you do with them. I think seeing the growth of the marching arts in the state of Utah in the last couple of years alone has been really amazing. And I know that Maple Mountain's just going to keep growing and growing, and I can't wait to see you guys at Grand National someday. And
That's my hope.
I mean, you guys you're already getting up to this, that same level as these other big programs in Utah, and I think that's great for the whole scene, for the whole community.
I love it, and it's awesome to see what other teachers are doing.
Oh yeah,
they're awesome friends.
you all learn from each other
Oh,
simultaneously.
absolutely. I'll tell you right now, those 5A directors, I think sometimes students think that us band directors, like, we hate each other or like, big rivals or whatever. But honestly, I love all the 5A band directors. I was like talking to some of them not too long ago, maybe down at UMEA or something. I was like, we need to have a band director hang, because like they're just all great people. I love all of them, and they're all fantastic directors. And to see what they're doing with the program, even if they're like our rivals and they're getting better, well, that just pushes us to be better.
Exactly.
And I love it, and pushes the whole program. And the like March Band is a whole different animal than when I started out. I remember my first march band show ever seeing was Pandora's Box at American Fork. And I'll tell you what, this isn't Pandora's Box anymore. It's a whole different world. For me to have grown up during that period I loved it.
Oh yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
Hey, well, thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you the best this year. I think it's going to be an amazing year for you.
Thank you. I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us on the Marching Arts Utah podcast. This has been Director of Bands at Maple Mountain High School, MiKae Osborn, and we'll see you in the next episode.